Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. We're finishing up with just a few more panels for tonight. Next one is going to be Decentralized Data from Storage to Governance, moderated by Rob from Volt Capital. Please invite to the stage the speakers, Dao from Hive DA, Chi from Kite AI, Shashank from Fraction AI, Galanthia from Masa, and Steven from Space and Time. Please welcome to the stage.
I don't want to drop him. Oh, are we sharing? Yeah.
All right, so we are ready. Just a quick hello. I'm Rob, a partner at Volt Capital, and that's probably enough of me. Let's get to the panel, which is decentralized data from storage to governance. So our lovely panelists here have been focusing on the data ecosystem for quite some time, the entire pipeline. So we often hear that data is the new oil. I actually just got an invite titled like data is the lifeblood of AI. While huge computing systems can be a bit of a big advantage for certain companies, how do you see these two factors, data and computing power, shaping modern AI? And more importantly, how does this address, or how does your company help address these challenges? So we'll start off first with yourself.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? All right. Hey, I'm Steve Hilton, Head of Solutions, Space and Time. Thank you, by the way, for hosting. I think, there we go. Centralized, I think AI obviously is really being bulldozed in by the big centralized companies insofar as there's a race to get this stuff done. And when you're in a race, you can't take time for nuance, you just got to get it done, right? Because the first one there often is the trendsetter, that's OpenAI in a lot of these cases. But I think we're starting to see, I think we're starting to see a turn where we're opening the door for additional nuance. Whether you believe DeepSeek's assertions or not, like there's some nuance there that was groundbreaking. And so I think that nuance opens the door for decentralized AI more because now a lot of the big LLMs have been trained. You can take advantage of those with decentralized data. And I should also probably mention, I'm with Space and Time. We're a decentralized data warehouse. So think of us like a DPIN plus a blockchain. But we're all about servicing data into things like AI, into decentralized systems. And so we're seeing a real uptick in the number of decentralized AI companies that we're working with. And I think that's because the industry, or the kind of technologies is really starting to come up with the need for nuance, to start gaining efficiency. Because I don't know of any decentralized AI company out there that's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Google as far as sheer compute, right? They just have the bulldozers. Now we're going to come back in, right, with the sculpting tools and do things that are, I think, a lot more impressive because it's going to take that creative problem solving to get there.
Great.
All right, so I think not every part of AI needs to be decentralized. I hope everyone agrees.
I agree.
However, I think data is a great layer to be decentralized. Why is that? I think in the future, we'll have tens of millions of AI entrepreneurs in the US. Some of them might be technical, some of them may not need to be technical, and everyone will be able to build AI applications, in particular AI agents. And all those AI agents and applications would require data. So at Masa, what we do is that we provide real-time data to run those AI agents. Currently, in order to get those very expensive and gate-kept real-time data, you have to pay $10,000 to $40,000, for example, every month to Twitter. With Masa, what we have done is that we have a decentralized network of miners who are able to collect and structure those data in real time for you and return it back to you in traditional API. So hopefully, through this panel, we can share different kind of format of data, and super excited to be here.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to say not all data is created equal. All the centralized models that are out there are already trained on all of the internet, so they have seen everything that we have posted so far, and they can kind of generate everything that is known. So what we need for training better AI models is new data, new and better data. And just doing it through humans is not enough because it's a slow process. And if you just get people to create data, it's difficult to maintain the quality. And DeepSeek has shown us a new approach where they generate their data and train their models through a pure RL approach. So they use their model to generate data and then filter it out through specific rules, and then that data is used to make the model better. So I think that will be the path that will take us forward. That you use different models, different agents, which capture different human insights, and use that to create new data, and then use that data to make better AI. And that can be done in a decentralized manner. And decentralization is a huge advantage there, because everyone can come up with their own agents, with their own nuanced insights, and the new data that will be created will be powered by those insights. And yeah, that's what we do at Fraction AI.
Hi guys, I'm Chi. Goes back to a question that Rob asked. So first of all, I think definitely the change of this, for example, like the engineer optimization, like what DeepSeek have done, and like a further potentially framework change will make the compute shortage or compute bottleneck become less a problem. But why data will still be a big problem here is, to us, we consider one of the key reasons is lack of those ownership and provenance tracking. So like what Shashank from Fraction AI mentioned about DeepSeek is using model to generate data. Then the other question now can ask is, okay, where those model have been trained their model on? So then, if the data has been used to train the model to then generate new data, in this process, how would the ownership and provenance tracking going, and what does that mean from economy, from monetization perspective? Which to us, we consider it's super important because apparently we see a lot of people want to do great open source AI, including DeepSeek, but unfortunately most of the company cannot do that unless you are a Meta or like DeepSeek mother company is a hedge fund. They probably can make more money than just do the AI selling at that moment. But anyways, so that's why what we are building actually is trying to design the new consensus mechanism, what we call the proof of attributed intelligence, to really bring this transparent provenance tracking and fair rewards back to each of the layer of attribute of the AI workload, from the data to model to agent. So that's how we think can solve the data challenge.
Yeah, so when you talk about like more of the centralized AI systems, there really data becomes a big selling point. Like the more data that you have, the better that you can really train your AI model. And there's a lot of compute in both the centralized AI, but also in the decentralized AI. If you take Bitcoin as one of the example networks actually, which is obviously not an AI network, but it has more compute power than all of the AWS server parks combined. So I think with like decentralized, we already do compute pretty well, but I think data still remains a bottleneck, and not only in volumes, but also in integrity, verifiability, and in speed. So that's what we try to solve with HiveDA. So we have a data availability layer that handles gigabytes of throughput instead of megabytes per throughput. And this really becomes a corner piece to not only share the data, because I think in the decentralized world we really have this opportunity to build an open ecosystem, but for that open ecosystem to foster, we really need all of this data to also be verifiable. It needs to have integrity, and of course it needs to have speed as well, because without speed you can't really build much sophisticated solutions. So that's what we're building, and how we see this compute and data shape the world of modern AIs.
Great. So we kind of went over what everyone's building, and it sounds like there's a lot of trade-offs in the design of all the different protocols. So some solutions store only pointers on-chain, while others have the bulk of it off-chain. Others push more data on-chain for maximum transparency. So I would like each of you to kind of go through like, how do you decide which approach works best for your specific use cases, and like what went into that decision? And we can start at the other end.
Okay, I can go. So in our case, we store most of the data off-chain because the scale of data that's generated, it can't be stored on-chain, so it's not really a choice. But we do store the hashes on-chain, so anytime you can go and verify a piece of data that it's the same, it's not been changed when it was created. And I think that's the solution we should go with to stay competitive. Otherwise, we would be focusing too much on decentralization, and we won't be able to create competitive models. And nobody cares about a model that doesn't really work, but is decentralized. So better create models and make them decentralized, but make them performant as well.
Awesome. I actually really disagree, but that's perfect because but I agree with you. There's no possibility now to do anything else but put the pointers on chain because there's just not enough throughput, and it costs way too much as well to put any kind of like large data file on chain. But that's exactly what we're trying to solve. So we actually have like this Byzantine fault tolerant model where data is verifiably still available, but also the integrity is maintained. And then you actually do have the opportunity to be completely transparent about your data, which it definitely has its use cases when you want to actually be able to verify the kind of data that came in, and you want to make sure that it cannot be censored and there's no data withholding attacks. Then it would be better to be completely transparent about your data. Definitely putting the pointers on chain might work now, but I think for a completely decentralized system, we should have not just a trade-off between transparency and cost, but have it both optimized.
What's your throughput right now?
Right now, our throughput is 1 gigabyte per second in testnet, and we want to scale that up way more to like 100 gigabyte per second is the eventual goal. Like we need to have like a decentralized alternative to like these data systems that are completely centralized, and for that we need to have the same throughput as whatever, like an AWS S3 or something like that. So right now it's 1 gigabyte per second to answer your question, but we want to scale this up much more, and our system is built to scale much beyond that as well.
Yeah, that's my point. If you get to that level of throughput, that level of performance, where it's at par with the Web2 solutions, then yeah, sure. But until then, it's better to just use the best solution and focus on creating the best AI.
We'll talk in the future then.
Sure.
I can chime in as well. So in your camp, we can have actually a debate on stage. That will be fun to watch. It's like 5 p.m. and everyone wants to have a debate. So I'm in your camp because at Masa, we really prioritize being able to give real-time data responses where at least in milliseconds, we're able to provide extremely affordable and cost-effective real-time data to developers. And so far, we have collectively processed 300 million data records, and we are currently profitable as a company. This is all depending on we need to provide real-time data at an extremely low cost and be very competitive to Twitter Developer API, Discord Developer API, etc. So I hope one day we can all go on-chain, but for now, I think decentralization needs to take priorities, and for us, the priority number one is not that.
Okay, I'll go. I don't know that I have a dog in that particular fight, but we take a little bit different approach in Spacetime. So Spacetime, I mentioned, is a data warehouse. It's a database. It's relational in structure, and it's more designed towards big data processing than it is low latency. We can do low latency, but we're talking like 100 milliseconds, not 10 milliseconds. But we can also process many terabytes of data in 5 seconds. And so that's really the sweet spot for us. I mentioned before, we're kind of like a DPIN, but think of it like very permissioned. So one side of it is really very centralized. And so you think of like multiple clusters of servers doing big data processes and what, MPP, massively parallel processing type, structure, if you're familiar with that world. How we get transparency into this is the blockchain side, where as you ingest data into the network, we're ingesting it into the blockchain, which takes cryptographic commitments. They're like hashes, but they're particular, like fancy hashes that you can also do ZK proofs on, which means that all of the data that's in these big decentralized systems also have a highly transparent, permissionless blockchain that holds those commitments. It means that at any point you can get a ZK proof for the data in a permissionless environment for data that sits in a fairly centralized environment, right? And so we're trying to get the balance right here where you can do really big data processing. And by the way, into this big data system, we index all the major blockchains, right? So you don't have to load Ethereum, you don't have to load Bitcoin, you don't have to load, I don't know, whatever the blockchain of choice is here. But it's just sitting there ready to be used, right? But you can always verify that the data is right because we have the ZK proof you can request. You don't have to. And by the way, this allows us to also do things like private tables. Like you can have a permissioned table inside of this environment that's encrypted and it's got authorization tied to it, obviously you can't, that wouldn't go through the blockchain side of it, right? But that's not the point. The point is that you may have private data in your enterprise that you want to join with public data that you do want to prove, right? And so we make all of that possible. So from our perspective, it's not about pointers. It's about storing the data in the right structure. Yeah, we have a relational over here, we have blockchain over here, and we try to use both, to give our customers the best balance.
My turn. Yeah, so all very interesting and legit, statement from the team. So actually, what we chatted just reminded me in the very beginning when I come into Web3, I come from a very a Web2 data and AI infra background. Before Kite, I used to lead product management at Databricks, a big data infrastructure company. So at that time, when I was thinking about at that time, when people were saying the decentralized storage, like a Filecoin, decentralized S3, and they say that it's about fault tolerant, it's about faster, I was like, what are you talking about? How possible it can be? Because S3 has always at least 3 copies of files stored there for fault tolerance, and centralized data center will always be faster from a bandwidth perspective. But then I learned more about what does decentralization really mean when it comes to, especially about some transparency, about verifiability. That's a trade-off to do there. And that mentality and that thoughts inherited to what we are building on Kite, then goes back to what we put on chain, what we are not putting on chain. We're trying to strike the balance between being practical and also being decentralized, which means to us about being trustless and being transparent. So in that case, what we are doing is we store a lot of Fraction mentioned hash. So actually, we design something what we call the data DNA, or data fingerprint at the row level. And whenever there's a transform or something happened to that row, then there's a hash generated, and we'll put that on chain. And that's one. And because our goal is using Kite AI to solve the ownership and provenance monetization problem, so we will put something like the usage, and also for example, the pricing licenses, those type of information on chain. And then in order to do that, which I totally agree, both what Darwin and Shashank mentioned about, there is something we have to do customization to make the throughput, make the scalability happen. So we are doing that as well for example, at the execution level and data availability level. We know that the traditional blockchain, including both the EVM and non-EVM system, is not designed to handle the AI native compute or workload correctly. So we're optimizing, or we're introducing a new AI native data structure that really can help us to store something like the AI output format type of thing to the chain. But yeah, so that's some things that we put on chain, but a lot of things we still consider off chain, or at least the store in the decentralized storage will be a better option at the moment. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Now, one thing I want to kind of touch upon is you guys kept mentioning the different components being brought on chain and off chain, but how do you think about rewarding users? Not all data is equal. So is there a certain incentive structure that you kind of want to build out, or are thinking about building out, or currently using? We can start with you, sir.
Sure. Yeah, this is definitely near and dear to our heart. I mentioned that as a data network, decentralized data network, we index number blockchains into our network, but it's a permissionless network. The intention here is to have a data marketplace where anyone can bring valuable data, they create the table, and they load the data set, and then at that point, anybody who queries it, they get a share of the gas that goes to the chain. So I'll use round numbers. These haven't been, we're in testnet, by the way, just to be clear. So when I say that we do this, we do that, we are doing it in testnet, but not in mainnet yet. But in round numbers, you can imagine the node operator is going to get half of the gas for the network, and then whoever owns the table of the data being queried is going to get the other half, or that prorated share. Right, and so we have ability for people to sell data inside of space and time today, but it has to be permissioned data. right? Because otherwise anyone can go look at it. What this new data marketplace on the blockchain side allows us to do is have permissionless data marketplace where anyone can come in. Again, we load like SWE data. If someone comes in and loads better SWE data than we do, great, awesome. People start using that, and that person or entity starts getting incentivized for it. And so it opens the gate for people who have data sets that are high value, high demand, and they just don't have a place to really monetize this easily today. And of course, we're all sitting at a Web3 conference, so this usually targets in on Web3 crypto companies, but not exclusively. As a data warehouse, we're, if you're familiar with Google BigQuery or Snowflake or these kinds of things, Redshift, we feel very much like, that's exactly what we are. We're just a decentralized version of it. And so you can imagine bringing any kind of structured data into this environment. And so again, the hope is that we are building that marketplace for anyone to bring any relationally structured data set into this environment and make it available to anybody. And it's permission. You don't have to ask us, you just do it. In fact, if you want to compete with us, that's fair game.
Yeah, to your question, I think incentive is really at the key of the development of decentralization and decentralized AI. If show of hand, who knows Scale AI in the crowd? Okay, the entire panel, hopefully at least. So Scale AI makes a couple $100 million in annual revenue. What they do is that they provide data for some of the most sophisticated AI developers, institutions, and government departments out there. And they are basically, I guess, the leader in centralized AI provision. But if you think about it, if you peel behind the facade of Scale AI, they essentially run a global contractor network that has a lot of human labor involved in data annotation, data labeling, and data cleansing. Imagine if you turn every single human being on planet Earth to a contributor to a decentralized AI network. That's what we all do in some shape or form on this panel. So every single person can become a contributor in Scale AI or any of the data network in there. And why would those people be interested in joining? It is because of the incentive that we provide to each individual contributor on the network. So at Masa specifically, every month we distribute around $500,000 of incentive to the top performing 256 contributors or data miners on our network. And their contribution is really scored by the quality of data, the volume of data, and then the response time when it comes to how fast they respond to the data queries on our network. In short, incentive is really the key and the reason why I think decentralized AI will take over the world in the future.
Yeah, so I really believe in two, there always have to be two kinds of incentives, shorter term and the longer term. I believe in Web3 we have done a lot of longer term incentives where you are given out tokens which accrue their value in the future, but there has to be some shorter term incentive as well. And secondly, I believe only the high quality data has to be rewarded, and on the other side, if someone submits something that's not high quality, they should be punished. So we have something like that on our platform where you create agents that are competing to add data to create better models. And if your agent performs really well, it can actually make money. And if it does really bad, then it also loses money. So that by itself creates this cycle where all the agents that are adding good data are making money, so they're incentivized to do better, and all the bad agents just kind of go off the platform. And this is necessary because each of those agents are making API calls to the LLMs, and that's costly. So we need to optimize on that as well. So these are short-term incentives which you earn while you are contributing data, and there are longer-term incentives in the form of tokens, which give you ownership of the models that you help create. So I believe both kind of incentives are necessary. If you're skipping out on any of those, then yeah, it's kind of suboptimal.
First of all, very agree with what Klasha mentioned about the incentive is everything. And also, it's, sorry, I want to tell a lousy joke. Actually, a lot of people are saying, like, who made real money in the Gen AI war? It's the three company. It's NVIDIA, it's a Scale AI, it's a Databricks. Yeah. One compute company, two data company, not model company. Sorry. Anyways, sorry for the lousy joke. But goes back to what we consider about the incentive and how to, like really leverage decentralized AI to solve the data bottleneck piece. There's three steps we consider is super important. One is actually what I agree with Stefan mentioned about the data marketplace. We consider like crypto actually offer a great way to tokenize the assets, and in this way, actually tokenize the data marketplace will be a great idea to like incentivize users or even like businesses to contribute their data, bring that in front of the data war a little bit better than, or like more incentive than before. But actually, that's to us, we consider the very short-term incentive, because that is not even, could be not based on usage, because we know there's a lot of times a lot of speculation about the value of the assets before the assets being super useful. So that's why the second step is being performance-based driven incentive. So that's also why we consider that having the real volume-based, or like what we call like the token, right? Like the AI token-based usage to track and value how much this AI asset has been contributed to this economy is super important. And that's also why we consider, as much as we admire like a proof of staking or proof of work type of proof mechanism, consensus mechanism is not designed for AI, because you cannot just have staking, very subjective type of decision to say, oh, I like your model, I like your agent, I like your data, so I want to stake more, so you can then, as a provider, get more rewards. That's we don't think sustainable in long term. And the third thing is also actually then goes to the token side. Now, if you are the token holder or you earn the token by contributing, then maybe you can even involve in the future of regulation and compliance of and also like the upgrade of the protocol design, which is a little bit more on the crypto side, but it's also very interesting because as people, as everybody, should also have a say and a vote in the future how this decentralized AI should be involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love what was said here. Agree with everything here, especially the incentive alignment of everyone contributing data. Really thought the scale AI analogy really went well there. For us, we're just a data publishing layer. So for us, the incentive alignment needs to be there with the more storage that you provide, the more incentive you get, so that eventually with the incentives you can provide more storage essentially. But that goes very hand in hand with technicals, because you need to be horizontally scalable to actually have that as well. So it's always this balance of the technical and the incentives there, because there's a certain amount of max of nodes that you can have in there that actually provide storage. Of course, we're trying to solve that, but the incentive alignment comes very much there with instead of having this one gatekeeper that owns all the data and thereby has all the incentives, you really distribute this among like a permissionless and decentralized network of nodes rather than just that one gatekeeper. And then protocols building on top of that, they will have the incentive alignment for the machine learning engineers, for the data providers, for the data consumers, so that this all becomes a decentralized and permissionless system from the bottom layer all the way to the top layer.
So do you provide incentives based on the device that the people are adding to the network? So if they add SSD, they would earn more, and if they add hard drive, they would earn less, something like that?
Yeah, the more storage requests essentially you process, the more work you do, the more incentives you get. So it's very tied to the amount of data that you can process at 1 second, for example.
Yeah, but 1 TB of SSD is not equal to 1 TB of hard drive, right? So do you measure them differently somehow, or is it the same? 1 terabyte of SSD is faster than 1 terabyte of hard disk drive. So do you measure them differently, or is it just based on storage?
No. It's you verify this afterwards. So you can verify afterwards how much one node has stored. Whether that's SSD or you keep like a really big memory, which I wouldn't recommend, because after you delete the data, you will be slashed. You can verify this afterwards. So it will be these nodes competing with each other essentially to process more and more data. So if SSD is the way to process more data in 1 second, if like a big server is the way to process stuff in 1 second, then the market will eventually move there.
Okay.
I'd like to shift a little bit more over to agents. Can you show of hands if your protocol leverages agents right now, or any form of agentic infrastructure, or plans to? Looks like 4 out of 5. Yeah, so as we shift towards more agentic economies where AI agents transact autonomously, how critical is decentralized data and the procuring process, ensuring transparency, security, and fair exchange among these agents? I feel like we should start off with.
Happy to. So I'm all in on AI agents to the extent that I have launched an AI agent meme coin. I provide a lot of data to probably, I think, 9 agentic frameworks out there. And I built a BitTensor subnet that is a competitive coliseum for AI agents. That's how bullish I am about AI agents. In general, I think the first wave of AI agent in crypto we have seen are really conversational AI agents on Twitter. Started with Gold, but then we've seen many other really stellar and outstanding and funny AI agents on Twitter. One of the biggest roadblocks when it comes to those conversational AI agent is really being able to consume real-time data and then be able to react to real-time data so that they can have real engaging conversation with their followers and community on Twitter. So at Masa, we have been providing real-time Twitter data to agentic frameworks since we launched on mainnet in April 2024. And then in the past few quarters, we have really seen a surge in our protocol usage because of the AI agents. Just last week, we surpassed a major milestone when it comes to product metric from Masa. We have reached 300 million in data records processed through Masa network, thanks to AI agents. So I'm all in on AI agents and would love to do more in the future. Thank you.
I can, yes, I can go next. So I would say I'm pretty bullish on agents because our whole platform is built around that. It's about competing agents, trying to add the best possible data for a model. So we have these things called spaces. Each space is about a certain theme. So it could be about writing tweets about Ethereum, writing marketing emails about a particular clothing line, or it could be as detailed as possible. And then users create agents for those tasks, and those agents then compete to create the best possible data for these tasks. And I believe this is the future because the time when humans used to label data is kind of done, and DeepSeek has proved it, where it introduced GRPO, where the model generated data and then they were able to filter it out in a way to make it usable for training and making their model better. And that's what we do. We just do it in a decentralized manner, where people create their own agents and then those agents try to create the best possible data. And yeah, super bullish on agents.
Yeah, so I'm also really bullish about agents, and especially actually the agents that are going to be trading on chain. So there's different reports about this, but there's probably going to be a lot of agents trading on chain at some point. There's already some agents trading on chain, but when you have these agents trading on chain and you trust them with your life savings or with just some of your assets, you generally want to be sure that they're actually using the correct data. So this is where I think like data verifiability really comes in, to make sure that your agent is not using the model that you did not describe to it, is actually using the correct data, not some data from 1990, actually being able to verify everything from the agent's actual interactions, which we'll be able to see on chain, but also the input that it is using to make all of its decisions.
Yeah, actually, I consider this is something I heard from a friend before, and I really love to use that statement. Agent is actually like an ultimate combination of the compute, the model, and the data. So one thing I really like about agent is really it could become the true out-of-box solutions for end user, for everybody to leverage in their life to use. Because honestly speaking, if we're only talking about data, it's still a little bit far away from end users or consumers to leverage without some easy solutions there, and agent make it happen, especially now in the future. If everybody can launch their agent, that's such a cool idea, and then that's become, then truly democratization of AI technology to me. Then goes back to about the agent economy. That's the same thing that we previously chatted about. Because if we consider agent as the ultimate combination of all those fundamental AI resources underlying, then what important is here is actually how you can phrase or again properly track the ownership and attribution of those contributions into the end agents for solutions.
You want to go?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll answer.
Yep.
Agent's going to be dead in 6 months.
That's a good
I'm
take.
kidding. I'm kidding. I want to see who is awake. No. Yeah, who's really listening? No, yeah, I mean, agents, I think, obviously here to stay. We have a couple different agents that we've deployed. One that's in our platform that you can, as a data warehouse, it runs on SQL, select star from blah, blah, blah. You can now also just give it a prompt. And we have, it's a non-productized vector database behind the scenes that goes through, trolls through all the metadata, and then takes also input data that you can provide it as a human, says, you know, this is my Ethereum table, and here's what the columns mean, and here's what, you know, the different, any metadata or business terms that you want to give it. All that's extensible, it'll go through and try and figure it out itself, but if it can't, it's good to do. We see pretty good success with that. It's really particularly powerful when we look at the community that logs into space and time that are not SQL analysts, right? And it kind of makes me sad when you say people don't get to play with, no more people in data. That kind of makes me sad a little bit. I mean, I totally agree with you, by the way. And that's what we see. The community goes in and they just prompt their way to, you know, to answer sets. And then there's another little, we'll call it a baby AI that looks at the answer set that you get and comes with, I don't know, between 5 and 20 different graphs. It's like, okay, we think that this data structure with this, you know, kind of key will look good as a pie chart or a, you know, a multi-line chart or whatever. And so really with a very primitive knowledge of what the data is, you don't even have to really know the columns or anything. You just have to say, hey, you know, show me the last 2 months of you know, liquidity on Aave. And it will go through and calculate it and give you the data set and create a bunch of graphics for you. And then you can say, start a new dashboard and pin that on my dashboard. The next step, which is, you know, we're looking towards is, what about a dashboard agent that can actually just drive the other two agents and say, hey, someone is interested in Aave, go make me a dashboard. And they don't even have to pick out, like, it'll just go and you know, pick out what it thinks are the best pieces. Or a step beyond that, hey, I want a whole data application, right? I want to start a dog walking service, and I don't care about tables, I don't care about anything else, but what I want to do is accept crypto as my payment, and I want someone to be able to log into my website and, you know, and pick the time and the place, make sure I have the calendar, you know, free to do that, right? And have all of that built inside of a framework that you know, can basically prompt your way to. And so we're really using, you know, the foundation of space and time is data. But on top of that, we're layering these use cases to make the data structures more accessible, because sadly, I actually do agree that the days of sitting around and writing long SQL statements is probably a thing of the past.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're a little bit over time, but real quick, each person just one hot take, and then that will conclude our panel.
Hot take? Yep. Oh man, hot take. That's pretty open-ended. I think that the next thing that has not been explored yet, or at least I haven't seen it, maybe I just missed it. Someone educate me if your startup is doing this, is visual command in a domestic environment, right? Like having I want to walk into a room and instead of like fumbling for light switch or saying, Alexa, turn on living room light. There are 3 things that share that name, right? Standing like an idiot in the dark. I want to be able to point to something, right? I mean, how easy would that be for an agent to figure out whether you're pointing directly at it? That would be like, of the many things that it can do, that would be super simple. Then you just have to turn it into a switch.
So like a clapper?
Like the clapper. Oh man. I'm going to email them, say you're missing an opportunity here, clapper. I don't even know if they're in business anymore.
I'll keep it short. Hot take for a panel of data infra companies. I think there are too many infra projects out there. There needs to be more application layer and agents project out there, because otherwise we will eventually all converge into providing the same thing at the infra layer.
Well, there'll be a consolidation period. People will buy each other.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I really believe we should be making agents more fun rather than making them do boring tasks like writing mails or like which Web2 people are doing anyways. Crypto was more about fun always, so we should come up with more fun tasks. And yeah.
Particularly for this panel, I think data will be the next biggest and ultimate bottleneck for the development and involvement of AI.
You actually stole my hot take, so I'm going to have to come up with a new one. I guess the hot take will be that there's still not enough data on chain, and there's still not enough data that's actually transparent. I'm going to keep that as my hot take.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.